Hello and welcome to another Survivor Season 50 in the Hands of the Fans review and recap, this time for episode 3. And you know, I got something cooked up, everybody. Snap your fingers. Get ready. Now quit snapping, I'm not gonna rap. What do I look like, Jeff Probst? I'm not gonna be that cringe today, at least. But we do have a lot to talk about, as there was a tribe swap, there's new alliances, new rivalries, all that good stuff. So let's start off where last episode left off, and that was Savannah being voted off and then coming back to the Cila camp. You have Rick Devens and Christian very excited because they pulled it off. They were able to plant the fake immunity idol at Tribal Council with nobody catching them, and they're excited for what's to come in the future if anybody sees it, takes it, tries to use it, all that good stuff. Now the next morning, they find tree mail, and people are expecting a tribe swap. Now, in an event of a tribe swap, Christian comes up with a plan. What if we say that Rick Devens found the idol because he is the idol guy? He was the one that sent it to Aubrey since they have already a connection, and then they can use that to their advantage just in case of one of or more of the four are on another camp with Aubrey. They have something to break the ice, as well as if one of them gets into a bind, maybe Aubrey would use the idol on them. So Rick and Christian go to tell Suri, which, can I just say, I love Christian so much this season. Him doing the surprise faces during Rick telling Suri about the whole Billie Eilish thing was just really funny. I mean, I know the Oscar submissions have already been announced, but Christian is giving the performance of a lifetime here. Christian and Rick were unable to tell Emily prior to meeting up with Jeff to do the swap. There's too many people around camp, and they pretty much kick the can down the line until they are standing in front of Jeff, and he confirms through a very cringe, like 80s educational rap style, that this is a tribe swap, to where Christian is like, it's now or never. I need to tell Emily. So he leans over, whispers, Aubrey has an idol. We found it last night. To where I love this moment because you can see when the information like clicks. There's so many things going through probably Emily's mind, to where when Christian gives this information to Emily, she's just like, yeah, okay. Wait, what? Jeff goes around handing out new buffs to everyone, and we get the new tribes of Vatu being Angelina, Christian, Emily, Ozzy, Mike, Q, Stephanie. The new Cila tribe is Charlie, Dee, Rizzo, Jonathan, Camilla, Suri, Rick Devens, and the new Kalo tribe is Aubrey, Joe, Genevieve, Chrissy, Tiffany, Coach, and Colby. I know some fans can be iffy on tribe swaps, especially this early on in the game. Also, depending on how many tribe swaps you're going to have prior to the merge. But I felt like with how the game was going, it felt like it was going to continue on the same pattern. So with these new tribes, and when we peek into everybody's camp, it just feels like a revitalization into the show and into the game. Speaking of the new tribes, let's dive into each of the campsites, starting off with Cila. There is a Kalo Core 4 of Charlie, Dee, Jonathan, and Camilla, where they already have a numbers advantage, so if they were to go to a tribal council, possibly, maybe, they would be able to dominate the vote. Even though Rizgod is in a very precarious situation, Dee and Jonathan have early talks of, if we were to go to tribal council, we need to get Suri out. Then later on in the episode, we see Rizzo and Charlie starting to bond with one another. Rizzo asks Charlie about Maria and if they are still in contact. No. And then later on, they're sharing information in the hammock together, where Rizzo tells Charlie all about the Billie Eilish boomerang idol and that Ozzy has one. Charlie is so excited to get all of this information. However, he's not so happy with Rizzo, because in the previous night's conversations, everybody's just talking, having a good time. They're asking Rizzo about season 49 since nobody has seen it, and they ask him if he had a BFF during his season. And he's like, yeah, Sophie, she was my closest ally. She went all the way to final tribal council and she did so great. And everybody was like, oh, so you voted for Sophie to win at FTC. And Rizzo was like, no, I actually voted for Savannah. And how I laughed at the edit of this episode when we get that information from Rizzo, and then it cuts directly to Charlie just like staring, seething in anger, bundled up. And then we get to the confessional of Charlie being like, I cannot stand Rizzo. Hearing that he had a best friend make it all the way and he didn't vote for her makes me so angry. What's also really funny about this is that earlier confessionals, we hear that Suri isn't really finding Rizzo/Rizgod very charming. So we're going to have to wait and see how that's all going to play out if Cila even makes it to a tribal council during this time. Let's put a pin in that for now as we go over to the new Kalo tribe, where Joe is so excited to be with the boys of Coach and Colby. This three instantly lock up. They're talking about integrity. They're talking about the Warriors way. So everybody look out for Joe, Colby, and Coach. Now, speaking of Coach, he wants to give a heads up and a warning to Chrissy that back on the other Kalo tribe, she was catching some heat because she was getting on other people's nerves by being too motherly, hovering over everyone, talking too much. And so he, Colby, and Chrissy go out for a conversation, and Coach could have been a lot softer and a lot better in how he phrased why Chrissy needs to maybe change up her strategy and how she is around camp. I mean, first of all, he tries to be super vague, being like, hey, Chrissy, just this. And then he does the whole yap motion with his hands and goes, you were just always da 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 da. But even though it wasn't the best, he still gets the point across. Chrissy gets very emotional and overwhelmed by hearing that she was close to being voted off on the other Kalo tribe. Genevieve and Aubrey see how emotional she's getting. They go off to have a conversation with one another, opening up bonds and connections that maybe Chrissy didn't have over on the old Kalo tribe. Now, speaking of Genevieve, she is wasting no time trying to grab up as many alliance members and as many numbers on her side. She talks to Joe, Coach, Chrissy. She already has a connection with Colby on old Vatu tribe. Everybody seems to like Genevieve. Everybody seems to be connected with her. And once Genevieve has an in, she's taking a mile, and she is telling anybody who will listen to her how bad Aubrey is. I mean, she is throwing her under the bus to anybody and everyone, pushing that if we were to go to tribal council, Aubrey has to be the first one to go. What she didn't foresee happening was once she said something to Tiffany, Tiffany went directly to Aubrey and told her that Genevieve is smearing your name all over camp. We start to see this bond and connection, this power duo between Aubrey and Tiffany, that they want to work together, that they trust each other implicitly, and they will be working together moving forward in this game. And they're going to be looking to target Genevieve to kick her out. Now, finally, moving over to the new Vatu tribe. Mike is the only former Kalo tribe member on this new tribe, but he's actually in a great position socially because he's reconnected with his former David versus Goliath cast members of Angelina and Christian, as well as he has a connection with Ozzy outside of Survivor, where Ozzy was like a manager to a restaurant that Mike used to frequent back in LA, so they're connected. So Mike's actually in a really good position. Somebody who is not in a very good position is Q, who does not have a vote and needs to make new connections right away. So instantly he goes on a walk with Ozzy and asks him about the idol and says that his alliance members were the one to find it and send it to you, trying to get that bond. And then Q and Ozzy go up to Emily to lock in a foursome of Q, Stephanie, Ozzy, and Emily. Now Emily, who is trying to get her bearings with everything that happened with the swap, the new campsite, now this new alliance, as well as what Christian had told her about Aubrey having an idol. To me, I feel like she is so reactionary instead of taking a second to maybe think, breathe before giving too much information, but she just lets it out that she doesn't trust Christian, and that Christian, right before the swap, told her that Aubrey has an idol. Now this is like early on, and it feels like this is the first 5 minutes of getting to the new Vatu campsite and everybody getting introduced to one another. Well, then another 5 minutes passes, and Emily has a conversation with just Q and Stephanie, and Emily feels over it. She's like, okay, well, I thought they wanted me as a partner. Now it just feels like they're driving the boat and they just want me to tag along because I can vote with them and they just want the numbers. So now I'm rethinking if I want to be in alliance with them / want to work with them. But now I feel really bad that I just gave them some critical information about the whole Christian Aubrey idol situation. This is solidified later on when it's just Angelina and Emily talking with one another at camp while everybody else is away, and Emily just feels this connection with Angelina. So in the midst of them talking, this is when Emily just like lets it be known that, by the way, Q and Stephanie told me that I shouldn't trust you, and that if we were to go to tribal council, we're gonna vote you out. Angelina is shocked and is ready to vote one of them off. But now Emily is gonna have to do damage control because now it looks like she wants to work with the David versus Goliath trio or the White Lotus trio. And so now she has to let Christian know that I kind of blabbed about that Aubrey idol. At first, Christian is shocked, he is upset, but realizes how he can use this to his advantage. That now Emily feels so bad about telling the other side that now she's kind of forced to want to work with us. Especially since she seems to like Angelina and Mike and me. So now this could work out in our favor and strengthen that connection and be a solid 4 to control the vote just in case we go to tribal council. Now to determine who goes to tribal council, everybody goes down to meet up with Jeff for this week's immunity and reward challenge in one. For this immunity/reward challenge, one player will be the caller while everyone else is paired up and blindfolded. They will have to be navigated through an obstacle course to collect 3 rings. Once they collect the 3 rings and bring them back to their station, the caller will jump down to help lead their whole team down to the puzzle station, and then the caller will have to give instructions to 2 of their blindfolded teammates to help construct a puzzle. The first 2 teams to finish this challenge will win immunity as well as chickens. First place gets 4 chickens, second place gets 1 chicken, and last place will go to tribal council with Jeff. To be honest, out of every Survivor challenge, this one is my worst nightmare. This would be the one I dislike if I had to play it. I would not want to be the caller, to have all that pressure on my shoulders to get everybody to where they need to be, back and forward and all this other stuff. But I also don't want to be the one that's blindfolded, because I feel like I've seen too many of these challenges where people are running into things and could possibly get seriously injured. I mean, even in this episode, Colby takes a hard hit at one point. I think how this particular challenge is played in this episode was exciting to watch unfold, but if I had to play it myself, no thank you. When it comes down to the gameplay, the new Cila tribe is working like a well-oiled machine. They are able to collect all their rings first. They get to the puzzle station with such a huge lead that they have no real competition for first place, and Cila locks in the win. First place, 4 chickens, immunity, and it comes down to Vatu and Kalo, who are neck and neck the entire time. What this comes down to is communication styles and how efficiently and effective you are in giving and receiving communication in a team format, and Chrissy with Coach and Genevieve on the puzzle is able to do much better compared to Christian, Ozzy, and Q on their puzzle, where Kalo is able to win second place, win immunity, 1 chicken, and Vatu is going to tribal council, which Christian, Emily, and Ozzy know very well, as they've been to every tribal council this season so far. Now, Christian takes this loss pretty hard, as this was pretty much his burden to bear. He was the caller, he was the one that can see everybody. He apologizes when they first get back to camp, but people are not worried about that anymore. They're worried about where the votes are going. Now, with Q not having a vote, and even though they feel like they have Ozzy and Emily on their side, they still need 1 more person to vote with them. So they talk to Christian, and they're like, even though we know that you have a David and Goliath connection, would you be down to vote Angelina? And Christian seems agreeable to them, and they feel like maybe we got this in the bag, or maybe they're lying. Well, it's the latter. They're lying to you. Somebody else who was lying to them at first in a roundabout way was Mike, who coming back to camp was like, hey, look, you know, I know that there's a David versus Goliath connection that everybody can see, and I just can't deny it, as well as don't be upset when I put a vote on somebody here at camp. I think I'm going to vote for Stephanie. I was very surprised that Mike was being so direct, so blunt. I didn't know what his strategy was. Come to find out, Mike is like, I'm just telling everybody that we should vote for Stephanie, but in fact, we're going to vote for Q. Angelina and Christian are so down to vote for Q. Emily seems game to do it, but she wants to get Ozzy's perspective on it. And Ozzy's perspective is, I'd love to vote for Q next tribal council. I'd rather vote for Angelina, break up that trio, as well as keep the tribe strong, and then if by some chance we go back to tribal council, then we can vote out Q. Now, what Mike wasn't banking on was when talking to Q about him voting for Stephanie, Q was like, you know what? Instead of voting for Stephanie, why not just vote for me? He's like, Stephanie is my number 1. I don't want her to get votes. I don't want her to be stressed out. Just vote for me. And Mike is thinking, this is too good to be true. Sure, I'll vote for you, Q. You don't have to tell me twice. We do get a confessional from Emily, who is going back and forth on whether she wants to vote for Q or vote for Angelina. It's sort of up in the air going into tribal council, but I had no doubt that Q was gonna go. I just didn't think that Ozzy was also gonna be on board. But when we get to tribal council and everybody votes, Jeff asks if anybody wants to use their idol. No. He reads the votes out. Angelina gets 1 vote and Q gets all the other votes. Stephanie is surprised. Ozzy stands up to give Q a handshake. Q is the first person voted off in this tribe swap, and you know what? I had a feeling that Q, once he gave the green light to vote for him, it's like, why, you know? Once you say, hey, yeah, put your votes on me, you're at a level of comfortability that you should never have in a game like Survivor. And I think the final nail in the coffin was him going around saying that he has an extra vote when, come on now. I'm sure you could fact check it with Ozzy knowing that Q doesn't even have a vote to begin with. Not to say that people don't realize that you can or cannot find extra votes just lying around the beach or anything like that, but there was no other game where like Colby, Mike, and Savannah played a stacking game or anything like that, so where else would you get an advantage kind of vibe? Him just being too comfortable at camp was his biggest downfall, and just feeling like he was running the show when he didn't even have a vote. You can't be running the show if you don't have a stake in the game, you know? So it kind of fit that Q would be voted off after everything that transpired. I'll be honest, I really enjoyed this episode. I loved getting the new dynamics. I love seeing Aubrey, Chrissy, and Angelina like have that revelation about their game that maybe they need to pivot how they're playing in the moment. There was like a genuine, authentic connection as well as 100% truth that people can't always believe in a game like this, and I just thought that those moments were powerful and I really enjoyed that. I loved seeing some new rivalries, see some new bonds and alliances. I think that this was a great time for a tribe swap, and I felt like this game is getting better and better as we move on. I'm really enjoying this season. I know we're only on episode 3, but I'm really enjoying it. But now I want to turn it over to you. Are you a fan of the tribe swap, or do you think they should have just stayed in their old tribes? What do you think about the new dynamics and the new alliances? What do you think about the integrity trio? What do you think about the David versus Goliath trio? What do you think the fallout will be about the whole Emily telling Ozzy, Q, and Stephanie about Aubrey's idol? What do you think about the Genevieve and Aubrey rivalry that is like building up even into this new tribe swap situation? What do you think about the immunity and reward challenge? And what do you just think about the game overall? I want to hear what you have to say. And finally, are you enjoying this season? Let me know that as well. I now want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for watching this video up to this point. I'll be back really, really soon with more Survivor content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.